Welcome to another episode of What Were They Thinking podcast. I'm your host, Bernard, and we also have Jeremy and Darnell right here on What Were You Thinking? What Were They Thinking podcast right here on this podcast. I was going to say a certain radio station because I was on it for so long with these three.
Yep.
Um, but
Back
just
in my day.
back in my day, yeah, thank you. And I just wanted to make sure everybody remember to like and subscribe this channel right here on uh, What Were You Thinking podcast. Now, we got a couple of different things upcoming today. We got the What Were You Thinking Award, which we have a prime candidate that might be getting another debut on the awards.
Okay.
Might be getting his second one. Yes, he's already got one. We also may be talking about buy now. We're also going to be talking about buy now, pay later. This is interesting. Not the White House.
Especially with the holidays coming up.
Yep. And we also have the jobs are not good, possibly. Now, I will say the following. Let's kick off with the our discussion this week with something we brought up last week. Unlawful orders. Because there was a video last week that was brought up. Trump was all upset about how these Democrats in Congress were saying, with Senator Mark Kelly, trying to court martial him now and all that stuff. But there's something more poignant that has now happened as a development. Unlawful orders might have actually been issued and carried out. Yes. Something about the double tap strategy. Killing people after their boat has already been sank, and this is not good. So, I guess it was back in September they gave orders to sink these Venezuelan boats that were possibly carrying drugs, and they did that. Some people were still left alive, and then they just proceeded to kill them afterwards instead of rescuing them from the water. Now, Jeremy and Darnell are both former military members, and oh shoot, that's not what I wanted. Okay, we'll go back to that one. And I wanted to ask you guys this question. What would we talked about what happens when you decide not to follow an illegal order, but what happens if you follow one? Because that's apparently what's happened.
I mean, it's going to depend on the severity of the order, and I mean, what. So, like, there was instances, like, if you go back to Vietnam, where, like, entire units were just, like, going after, like, wiping out villages, that kind of thing, and it wasn't just one person that got in trouble.
Yep.
Could that happen here where the pilots get in trouble instead of the one ordering? I don't know. It's a little gray. Do we even know if that boat had anyone that was supposed to be targeted? Because there was just a lawsuit that came out from the families of those people saying they were just fishermen and they're trying to sue the United States. Like, why are you blowing up? Like, he had no ties to drugs. He was just going out fishing. People are afraid to go fishing now down there, like, because they're afraid to get targeted, which is just going to destroy some of the economy down there.
And I think this all comes from Pete Hespeg. Some of the reportings are coming out is saying he issued a verbal order to kill everyone.
Well, but then it wasn't actually him; it was his admiral that did it.
Right, but apparently he gave the A-OK to do that. So, and then everybody followed the order down chain. So there's going to be a lot of people.
You got to wonder how many people down the chain before someone so to answer your original question, how many people in that chain of command are going to go along with the order before someone says no? And then when they do, or if they agree with it, does the whole chain get prosecuted or just the top of the chain?
Yeah, and it looks like, according to some of the Navy's handbooks, that Clearly illegal orders are to commit laws of law that clearly illegal orders to commit law of war violations. The requirement is for them not to comply with those orders.
Right.
And the example that they give um, is in order to fire upon a shipwreck would be clearly illegal.
Right.
And so they had already wrecked the ship, and then they went back and continued to fire upon the ship to make sure that nobody was left alive.
Right.
Um, hmm. I think there's going to be a lot of problems coming up here, folks.
Sounds kind of similar to what happened.
Yeah, and it's actually the textbook example that what they actually gave.
And so that's going to bring up, I mean, literally textbook answer.
Textbook answer.
And that's, you're going to have to, like, if it was like privates that were doing it, but these people that are flying the planes, they're officers usually that are doing that kind of stuff. So it's not just like a private who's been conditioned to just follow orders, do what you're told, chain of command. Like, this is someone who is most likely either a warrant officer or a commissioned officer, and they should know better. That's why they get paid more. They're supposed to make the big, tough decisions, and the rest of us are supposed to follow them. But
I'm assuming that most of these officers have at least 2 to 4 year degrees at this point.
Well, usually you have to have a degree to become an officer, unless you go through like a program, like you already got enlisted, and then you kind of go through the officer program. If you want to come in as an officer, you need to have some kind of degree or some kind of valuable skill set that offsets you going through the lower enlisted stuff.
Correct. Darnell, do you have any comments, opinions?
He's got plenty, but does he have any about this?
Yeah. Oh, come on, Darnell. I see that smile and you're about ready to explode. So,
No, well, we know that one admiral, instead of following illegal orders, decided to resign.
Right.
So, if this admiral that took his place, which you're trying to throw under the bus now, he's SOL. That's all I can say.
And if you have something turned on, can you turn off the notifications sound? So no, it's not me. I have everything turned off. I would say this. I think that is very true, but the way some people have been talking about this is that it includes everybody downstream. So it's not only just the admirals, then it goes to the CO of the boat, then it goes to the actual person that it facilitated all that stuff, and then it actually goes to the person that actually pulled the trigger. So I guess the better question is, what happens when the administration is changed over to a new administration, and what happens then?
Right. And to Darnell's point, what happens to these the chain, like when you have these admirals that aren't going to follow the orders, resign. Now you now have a chain of command that doesn't care, and there's no links in there that could stop it because they're just resigning instead of staying in.
Yeah.
Is that a good call to resign? I don't know. I mean, it's a way to call out, because in the military, you're not supposed to talk against leadership. You're not supposed to do any political stuff. So by resigning, then they now can speak out against it and not have any action brought against them. Iffy though, because they're commissioned, so they can just be called back up, because Hegseth's already threatening to do that
to Mark Kelly.
Exactly. So is it even worth it to resign at that point? Because they could just call you back up and charge you again. So would it be better just have them in there as a way, as
if they call you up, if they call you back up for telling the truth, pretty much, you can sue the government.
I mean, that's after they charge you at UCMJ.
That's what was it? The part of the freedom of speech,
First Amendment.
Yeah, you can political speech is protected speech.
When
Yep.
you're not in.
Yeah, when you're
But when
not
you're in, you're subject to the UCMJ standards
yeah,
of
but
political speech.
so they can't call what they're doing is pretty much illegal because
Right.
you're not supposed to investigate anything as far as political speech because I forgot what doctrine it is, but it's in one of our doctrines that if you get brought up or investigated for your political speech, you can turn around and sue because that is highly illegal.
Yep.
So that's why with Kelly, they're trying to say it's something different.
Right.
Yeah. But like I said, I think this is an ongoing story. We'll have to keep tabs on this, and it's going to be kind of interesting as things
especially
develop.
since he wants to move those strikes now to land. He said it's easier to hit stuff on the land. We know where they all live. We know who the bad guys are.
Yeah.
So,
I think the more interesting point of view is here. Hey, those oil companies are probably looking at the oil a little bit down in Venezuela and how it's more plentiful in Venezuela.
was it
and
someone
closer
in the
to home.
administration? Was it? I don't know if it was someone in the administration or it was definitely someone on the Republican side of things was talking about this strikes and saying how it would be a boon for the oil industry. And like, there it is. There's why it's happening.
Yeah.
We did it before. What was it? Like how many years ago? 10, 12 years ago for oil. And we're just going to do it again.
Yeah. It's like, come on, guys.
History repeats itself. Are we gonna let them? Are we gonna let these people start a war again? Because attacking land is going to be an illegal order because it's not authorized by Congress. You're going to be literally bombing another country without authorization from Congress, just essentially for oil.
Yeah,
it's not the drugs. It's the drug.
Yeah,
he just pardoned the president of Honduras. For a 45-year sentence for smuggling, was it 400 tons of cocaine into the U.S.?
Come on.
That's what they're saying is coming out of Venezuela is the cocaine.
Yeah.
That's like, you can't say one thing and then pardon the guy for 400 tons of cocaine into the U.S. on the other. Like, oh, we're going to stop drugs from coming in. But this guy who brought in so much, yeah, he's free to go.
Yeah.
But if you had a dime bag on you and you got 10 years in prison, no, you're out of luck.
You're just going to be doing your time.
But see, he pardoned 6 narco terrorists already.
Well, and he pardoned the president from a letter that the guy sent to Trump saying, "Oh, it was a Biden-Harris hoax of why I'm in here and blah blah blah," and Trump's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, pardon."
Yep.
I would also go on to say is that we also have another issue to talk about involving the military. I forgot about to mention this before. Is the guy that shot 2 National Guard people in D.C. I'm not really sure. I keep hearing reason why I didn't bring this up in the summary overview is because one, it's a story that's still developing, and two, people are pointing fingers at each other about who let the guy in, who actually gave him the amnesty. Trump's trying to blame Biden. Biden's, and it's like Trump was the one that kind of ended the war, but Biden's hands was forced on that. And then apparently Trump was the ultimate one because it just was how timing worked, was the one that actually signed the amnesty order.
Right.
So
the timing was nice. He could do all that stuff, and then it would happen all during Biden's term, so he could just blame Biden.
Right, but
he's the one who initiated it all.
Right, but then I think Trump became president when the official was in his second term, when the actual process actually finished up. So technically, Trump was the one that actually did it all. Basically gave the last.
Or it was the one in charge when it happened.
Right.
But this guy had worked with the CIA and stuff already. He had been vetted. Like they went through his. But just because someone's vetted doesn't mean that stuff doesn't happen in their life that
causes them
to do something like this. That's literally the whole premise of our gun problem in this country is like the mental instability that leads to these people to all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's a shooting, and like, oh, why didn't we see this before? But like, why was this person not vetted? What? Hindsight's 2020, but
Right.
the fact of like, we did all the steps were followed, and it still happened.
I would say the following. I think a lot of the stuff that's going on with the gun stuff and the gun debate is a lot of it is humans are flawed creatures, and we're not perfect, but at the same time, people want their guns. They want them. They can have them, but there's a lack of education and respect for the weapon or the tool and its ability to cause permanent damage or end.
Yeah, I mean, that's one aspect. And then you have like this guy who, like, for all intents and purposes, was vetted before he came here by
Right.
our government, by different officials, and it still happened because life happens.
Right.
Stuff happens to people that changes their mindset, that changes how they view things, for the good or for the bad. This obviously, his life was getting worse under what was happening, probably for some prosecution, probably some hate thrown at him just because of who he was.
Yep.
And that's a societal issue. Is why are we doing this to people, to other humans? Like, you can't just say, oh, it was his fault. Well, yeah, he pulled the trigger, but there's a lot of factors that led up to that happening. And that's
Right.
what we don't tend to look at, is what are the factors that are causing these people to do these things? And we just blame it on, oh, it's the guns, or it's X, or it's Y. They're not looking at the whole picture.
What I'm trying to say is that it's not necessarily the guns. It's also gun ownership is one thing, but also the current society's pressure on individuals in minority positions right now are making them feel very threatened. Actually, this brings up an interesting case that was just ruled upon down in D.C., where a senior status judge, I can't remember her name off the top of my head, basically told the Trump administration, take down the checkpoints. No more civil arrests without warrants for people with immigration status. If they're not a flight risk, you don't have the right to detain them unless you actually have a signed warrant by a judge.
I mean, I can't believe we're still arguing. Like, that all happened at the beginning of all this ICE stuff. Like, well, you can't do it without a signed warrant. And why do we still have to keep arguing that and taking it to court over and over and over? And I mean, it's because of the districts, because they do it in a different district, and then you have to file within that district, and then you goes up to that Supreme Court. But like, because our Supreme Court won't rule on it, it just keeps going to each district, and he just moves districts, and it starts all over again. But it ends up being the same ruling, no matter where it happens.
But this was a little bit different because it was the District of Columbia, and they had literally set up checkpoints.
Yeah.
And it was like literally just targeting Black and brown folks, and they were detaining people or arresting people without cause, and some of them were U.S. citizens. So it was like, okay, I would also probably go on to state that we have a lot of issues in this country beginning to crop up in this way, because how does one, with the current political climate and stuff, it's really beginning to be difficult, and I think this is partially some of the outfall of the elections that are coming out, is that the Democrats are just basically like, getting some, I would say, not cojones, but are actually beginning to push back kind of hard. And the Republicans are folding like a house of cards at some level with their policies. They're losing left and right in the courts.
Good.
Which may almost lead into our next topic about, and this is kind of an odd segue to it, but buy now, pay later.
Okay.
6 attorney generals this week sent a letter to Affirm, Afterpay, Clarion, PayPal, Sezzle, and Zip. And those 6 attorney generals were from the states of California, Colorado, Illinois, Minnesota, North Carolina, and Wisconsin and Connecticut. Asking about how they assess people's financial ability to repay those loans. What are the terms of those loans, the fees associated with those loans, and billing practices and late fees and handling of disputed charges. Can we say this is going to get interesting real quick? Because the Trump administration decided not to regulate them under the existing infrastructure for short-term loans and and all that stuff. So this is going to be interesting because we're in the holiday season, and we don't know how these companies operate in terms of their financial lending practices. So how do you think this is going to go wrong for them?
Dun, 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 dun. A little shark music there. Yeah. I mean, some of them may be trying to do, or again, we don't really know what their practices are. That's why the lawsuits come up for figuring out what their practice is.
There is no loss.
Or not. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Request for information from these 6 attorney generals,
which
may lead to lawsuits.
Exactly. It may lead to a lawsuit, depending if they're doing kind of like loan shark practices. Right. If they're not actually checking, like how do they establish if someone can pay it back? This is what happened with the housing bubble. I mean, because they were lending out money to people who could not afford to borrow that, and then we had to bail out everybody, bail out the banks that made all these horrible practices. I don't know if that would happen with these companies, if we would bail them out, because they're not like the financial institutions that keep our country running. At least that's the argument for the housing crisis.
But a lot of these companies have ties to those financial institutions.
Right.
I just named them.
Exactly.
PayPal.
Yep.
You know, also too, taking a little bit of an interesting tactic with this, they're not necessarily pursuing it under their financial regulations. They're doing it under their consumer protection regulations, which is more interesting in my opinion, because that really leads to a different way of regulating these companies when they thought they were operating under the other rules and they thought they had skirted around these federal.
Didn't the administration gut consumer protection stuff though? The agency,
right, but this is state.
Oh, good point. Yep.
So now I think some of these companies are beginning to realize this may not be a good thing, that the federal regulations has been gutted, which means now
each individual state can come at us with different ones instead of just a federal. Yep.
A federal regulatory framework, which is easier.
Which normally, if there's a federal thing, companies just do, what is it, a deferred indictment, deferred, I forget what the term is, but basically they can get it so where as long as they don't do it again for 5 years, they don't actually get any.
Right, that's it. They get charged.
Right, which at the state level, I don't think they can get away with that.
They can get away with it depending on which state it is. But the thing is now for these companies, the state is the states. So, for example, currently in this country, we don't have really a regulatory framework or a unified framework for technology, privacy and data protection and stuff like that. So, for example, Google Photos face recognition will not work in Illinois because there's the biometric protection data law in Illinois is so super strict.
Right.
But it works in all 49 other states. So I think what these financial companies, these buy now, pay later ones, are going to be like, maybe we want to get this regulated back into the federal government realm.
Right.
So this way we just have one set of regulations that we're working with instead of 50 different ones.
Yeah, it's easier for the company to slip up if they have to tailor it to individual states.
Right.
It's way easier to forget Illinois, they can't do this, or California, they can't do that, and they can
do that in California. Yeah.
Right. So, but if there's a federal regulations they have to follow, then it's a baseline of this is all we have to do, blah, blah, blah. It's easier on the company too, honestly.
Right. and I think this is where some of these companies are having buyer remorse with the Trump administration. Is like, we wanted less federal regulation, not eliminated, but they're eliminating it, which means now it's going diverting back to states' regulation power. Oh no. All these states have different regulations. We got a problem. you know.
Well, we don't. It's good for us.
Yeah, it's good for you if you live in a state that has good
Right.
regulations and good
Yeah.
protection in an actual state that, like Connecticut or California or Wisconsin, not Wisconsin, Minnesota, with and these other states that decided to kind of like, hey, we got a problem with this. Could you maybe explain this a little bit more? And it looks like Darnell might have some words of wisdom on this one. So Darnell, from your perspective, how do you think this is going to go wrong for these companies?
I'm trying to get all my thoughts together on this because there's just so many ways that this is going to blow up.
Can we say civil rights violations?
I mean, that's one of the ways.
Targeting the poor.
Yep.
Creating a bubble, economic bubble of all this debt. Yep.
Yeah, it's just something like this makes you wonder who really thought of this.
Are you making like 5 payments to pay off your chicken nuggets you bought today? So like, what could go wrong? Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like this. If you don't have the money in your pocket today to buy a television, then why are you buying a television and spreading the cost over 4 months?
I mean, some things I can see how that's useful. Like if you have like an emergency expense comes up and you don't have quite all the funds to cover it, you can spread it out because like I have some more money coming in a couple. Like I can see how it could be useful in certain situations, but how it's so mass, like it's everywhere. You go to buy anything now and you can just use a firm and spread out your payments, or you finance this $5 toy for the next 6 months.
60 years.
It'll end up costing you $20, but you didn't have to pay $5 right now.
It's almost as ridiculous as the Trump administration suggesting, I think a couple of weeks ago, changing the standard home loan mortgage from 30 years to 50 years.
Yeah.
You're just going to be
lower payment, lower monthly payment.
The only reason why he changed that mortgage to 50, the mortgage loan to 50 years, is so he can try to get more people to start buying houses, stretching out the loan. Because inflation he's not working on inflation.
Right.
He's just making sure that inflation is still there, but you can stretch out your loan a little longer so you can actually
afford it.
Pay them high prices.
Yep.
And guess what? You end up paying significantly more for the home because what? You're paying more interest each over the course of the loan. And guess who wins out?
And
the bankers on Wall Street
front load most of that interest on your first payments. So as those first couple of years, you're just paying mostly interest.
Yep.
Yes,
on a 50-year interest loan.
That's always how a loan works, by the way.
Yep.
You pay you always pay the interest every month. Then it goes, whatever left over, it goes to the principal. And in theory, so it's a kind of one of these.
Right. At first, you're paying off the house very slowly.
It's not a linear curve.
It catches up, and you start.
It's like not a linear curve. It's an exponential. It's an exponential curve, which is just mind blowing in my part. And that's the reason why I wanted to bring this topic up in this podcast.
That'd be a great regulation, is to make it more like evenly balanced between interest and principal payments. You'd have a lot less. You'd have a lot less bubble action happening with these banks just giving it out to people because they know, like, if they make the payments for 6 months, at least we recover some interest from it and blah, blah. But if they're forced to make it so it's like a split, 50-50 interest and principal instead of like
You can't-
70-30. I don't know. Maybe
No,
that
you
could
can't.
be
You can't
70,
do
30, I
that.
mean 80-20.
well 80-20. Yeah, you know what I mean? But like, why not?
No. It won't work. Financial. It won't work mathematically. Because the way a loan, you have an APR on the loan.
Well,
Okay.
it could work that way. They just choose not to.
Without going into the math, essentially, and as somebody that has a lot of math background, is the following: it won't work because what you're essentially doing is creating a variable interest rate. And so at the beginning of the loan, then the interest rate would be very low. But then as the loan ages, the interest rate would be increasing and increasing. You would probably see interest rates of towards the end of the loan being like almost 40-60%, compared to at the beginning of the loan where it would be maybe, like 4 or 5%.
Right.
So if you were to keep
that would
the
just be
interest and
better for
principal,
the homeowners and worse for the banks. The way they have it now, it's reversed, where you're giving all the money to the bank first, and then the homeowners have to wait until they're putting money into their own home. If you did it that way, it's a little more even in the front, where the homeowners are starting to pay down their house, and the banks don't see as much, and that's why they don't want to do it. It's not because they can't; it's because they want their money first. They don't care about the actual homeowner; they just want their money back so they can invest it somewhere else and make more money off of it.
So the other option is if you were to take that 50-year loan, right? What most people won't do is pay extra each month on that loan.
Right.
When you pay extra on a loan each month, it goes directly to the principal, not to the interest payment that's due that month.
Right.
So this is getting rough.
Well, that doesn't lower your interest at all. You're still going to pay the same interest.
No, it lowers your interest. It lowers your interest.
So then they can do it.
But it has to be you pay extra on your loan each month because you're lowering the total balance of the principal then.
Yeah, but if they just make it so you're paying 50% of your principal, like 50% of the payment is principal. Like, I mean,
right. But if you were to pay,
they could rework it so that you're paying more of your principal upfront instead of all the interest upfront. They could balance it out if they really wanted to.
Right, but the
interest payments could decrease as you're going because it's a set percentage of your principal.
Right. So your minimum loan payment is basically a portion of the principal plus all the interest that accrued for that month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then, if you wanted to lower how much interest you're paying the following month, not based on the APR but the raw number at that point, is you pay a little bit extra on the payment.
Yeah.
Which then makes it less. Banks won't tell you that you can pay extra on your loan payment each month because that means they're losing out their money. But you're legally obligated to. You legally can do that unless, and this is not, there's something in the agreement where an early payoff, there's a penalty for that.
Yeah.
Most 30-year home mortgages don't have that. Okay, but some do.
But I mean, my point is they know how much interest they're going to make off of that loan when they get the last payment. If no one made any extra payments, and they front load all that interest to the front, they don't. There could be regulation there could be a regulation that can't allow them to do where the payment is any more than 70% interest. You know what I'm saying? Like there could be a regulation to limit how much they take out up front for the home you're buying. Instead of like a company like, let's do 90. Only 10% of your first 6 months payments are going to go to your principal. The rest is going to come to us. They could regulate that and say you can't do more than 70.
Right, but
you can't do more than 60.
Right, but so the bank's response would be the following, pretty much. Well, if you don't qualify for that higher entry, you don't qualify for that loan because we're unable to make those percentages work because you just don't.
But if it's a regulation, I mean, because these are the same banks that were too big to fail. Well, if they're too big to fail, then how'd they fail?
Right. They were giving out loans that were
because they're doing
people that didn't have the ability to afford to pay back those loans,
and they were upfronting all the interest, so they got a bunch of money.
They were able to pay back until they started the not the fixed rate, but
The
The
variable.
variable jumbo rate loans.
yeah. Because
Okay.
the first 1 or 2 years you were at 3%.
Mhm.
And then they would jump it.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people, and that's kind of another problem that this country has, is in financial literacy, because they don't teach this stuff in school about how some of these how basic loans work, and how, maybe the thing to really do is, have the requirement that if you're, selling somebody a financial product, that you literally have to break down the math on the back end to show them exactly how it all works. But we all know that certain people in this country, and I'm not degrading on them, don't have the capability of grasping that information because they didn't do that well with understanding basic math.
Yeah.
And this is really a basic math question, and I'm not really degrading on people, but it's really, like I said, to explain a simple loan with compounding interest is one thing. To explain a loan that has compounding interest and variable rates, and and how it might balloon with these mortgages and stuff if you miss a payment, blah blah blah. I think that's another whole deal that most people would be like, and then some people probably be like, that are risk averse, would be like, no, no, I can walk away from this. And then you have other people that would be like, sure, sign me up, and then realize that
well, they see the first couple years of payments at that low rate, and they're like, oh, it'll be, like I'd save money, I could be ready for it, or I could refinance,
right.
and then it comes time,
And then they're
you're
screwed.
stuck. Yeah.
I would also
Again,
go
that's like the buy now, pay later. It's just
right.
mortgages.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll give you the cheaper rate so you can afford it. Don't
Right.
worry about what's going to happen in 3 years.
Right. Right. These buy
You don't
now,
have to
pay
think
later
about that. That's not now.
firms,
Don't worry about it.
But these buy now, pay later firms, they typically don't charge interest. They're relying on the fact that you'll miss a payment, have to pay these late fees, and all this other stuff that comes attached with it. It's almost the same thing as a credit card. They're relying on the fact that you will not make the full payment on time, so they can charge the late fee, then charge the interest, and then charge everything else on top of the principal that you've already. So you've made money on the, and then there's also another thing that they're making money on is on the transaction itself, because they're charging a 2 to 3% transaction fee to the vendor for for having the ability to take your
use
card.
their card. Yeah.
So I
tell me how capitalism is the way to go. I don't know.
Well, I think this is also another thing that goes back to, I think, with Trump right at the moment is, and I hate to say this, eliminating the penny. Now, granted, the penny is worth a penny, but the copper in the penny is worth 2 to 3 cents. Okay, I can understand the reason why we want to eliminate the penny, but if we're going to do that and still charge people pennies at this, prices out to the penny, I think there's a good argument to be made that maybe we should, companies should not be allowed to charge to the hundredth place any longer, and should be only allowed to charge to the 10th place. And if that's the case, then we should also eliminate the nickel.
Well, then you get the issue with tax, because that's going to create
right.
But where do you round it? Like,
right, but the tax
round down from 3. Do you round up from 3? Like,
no, or from 5. But so, for example,
to get to that nickel, because of
the penny. I'm saying get rid of the nickel.
I mean, yeah, you could, and just go from 5, and
no, get rid of the nickel. So,
I'm saying when you round, because the taxes, you know what I mean.
So having its prices at $10.99, it'd be 10.9. And then if you have sales tax, sales tax already goes out to the hundreds.
Let's say if you bought something for $1 here in Connecticut, you'd be paying $1.06. So you'd have
it's 6 cents
rounding up, and now you're
30. Right. So the way the sales tax law works is typically, if it's above 5 cents, you round up. If it's below 5 the hundreds, the thousands place,
Mhm.
so that's the next digit out. If it's below 5/100 of a
Right.
cent, it rounds down. If it's above 5/100 of a cent, it rounds up.
Right.
So you essentially would just be moving that over one decimal point to the hundredths place, and now you'd be talking about just in the tenths place.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
Then you get
still
rid of
have
quarters too, though.
you could get rid of quarters, and just so you would have a 20-cent
Yep.
piece and a 10-cent piece.
Yeah.
And maybe the $half, and the $half.
How are we gonna get our Aldi shopping carts though?
I'm sure they can retool them to take the
Take a 20-cent piece. Just make the 20-cent piece look the same size as a quarter. I mean, just round it
I
down.
like the Aldi shopping carts.
right, but
That's how I get my cigarette money.
you
Get their quarters.
I'll take that back for you.
But yeah, it's like this. I don't see how people in the future here, you keep talking about you want to eliminate the penny. Well, the gas prices at the pump, if you have ever noticed it, they charge you
Oh yeah.
out to the hundredths of a penny place,
Mhm.
thousands of a penny place. It's always $3.99 and 9/10 of a cent. If you
Yep.
ever notice that. Well, that's because they really want to get that extra penny from you so they always round that up. So if it's $3.99 for a gallon and 9/10 of a cent, if you pump exactly 1 gallon, well, they're going to charge you $4 for it because they rounded up.
Well, if you go just a fraction over that gallon, because at that point they can get you. I've gotten it exactly like at the point before, but if you go just barely, because they measure the gas out to the thousandths, so
Right.
you
Actually,
get that up just a little bit, and then extra penny.
Yep. Yeah. So I think at this point, a lot of people need to, I can understand why the government wants to do this. They've been talking about it for years. No, excuse me, decades. About getting rid of the penny. Okay. But it's always been this, what do we do? It's really a societal thing, a cultural thing about going up.
And now at least it won't be illegal to use those penny pressing machines because
they were illegal to use.
Well, technically you're defacing government currency.
Yeah.
So technically you're not. But now you're free to form as many pennies as you want.
Technically, no. It's still government currency. It's just the government's not making any new pennies.
Well, all right.
So
to form some.
Yeah, and and I would also say the following: we also have a lot of, I guess, along the standard now. We got some, as we were talking about the money issue and stuff. Let's talk about how do you make money and the lack of making money at this point, because one, we're now having to rely on private job reports because the government shutdown. And so ADP is saying we lost about 32K in jobs last month, November. And it was actually, they were expected to gain, but they actually lost jobs. And about 100, about 1,000 of them, 1,000 of them were in small businesses. So good job, government. Good job, Trump administration. You thought you're going to be bringing back
We'll get a guy in there to change the numbers for him. It'll look a lot better in a month or two.
Yeah.
It'll look better. It won't be better, but it'll look better.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, what they don't realize is, it looks better, but guess what? The facts are still the facts,
Right.
And
the government can say what they want, but when an independent review comes out and shows a vastly different number,
the government.
but there's still good people who are like, no, the government's right. They wouldn't lie to us.
Right, but this is ADP reporting these numbers, so this is already a private industry doing.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So they're going to probably go back and say the government's going to go back and do a survey and all this stuff. But what most people aren't talking about is how the government gets their numbers, and well, they're not getting many numbers because they fired a lot of people that used to go and call
Like
the businesses and ask numbers, and
Yeah.
so now they're having to increase the fudge factor even more, and well, that generally just leads to bad numbers.
Mhm.
And as I like to always say, garbage in, garbage out. And they're beginning to figure this out with AI, by the way, too.
Yeah.
Garbage in, garbage out. I don't know how else to put that to some people.
I mean, AI is also a buy now, pay later. I mean, it's like makes up like 20% of the stock market, and it's all a giant bubble of like speculation.
Well, the stock market's been speculation.
Well, I'm saying like the AI bubble, like it makes up about 20% of the stock market at the moment, and we have no idea. Like it's literally like three companies like investing in each other, creating this loop of hyperinflation that we're just going to pay for later when
It's
it
like
all just collapses.
it's like the tech companies are like AI,
and those are
AI.
going to just take more jobs too, the AI.
Right.
So we're going to create more job loss, and there's more.
Right.
This bubble's just going to keep getting bigger as it pushes people out of work because there's no regulation on it, thanks to the big beautiful bill. There's
and then we are also, maybe we should also talk about this one little thing as a side note because of all this. Where are humans going to end up in a couple of years with all this? And then you kind of look at all the stress that's going on with people today and stuff, and you look at the youth of America and children, and just like, I don't want to say this is bad, but a lot of people just need to earn that. We need to sit back, relax, and maybe take a moment to ponder and reflect. And speaking of that, we still have a award to give out. We're getting towards the end of the episode here. Now, do we have some candidates for this? We have Pete Hegseth again with his let me get something thrown up here. There we go. We got Pete Hegseth and the verbal order to just kill everyone.
Yep.
Kill them all. And we also have.
That. Yes, he did. No, he didn't. No,
kill everyone is what is
kill everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's a verbal order, which is always so fun. We also have, the buy now, pay later firms that are also, kind of like they shot them in the foot on this one. And we also have the Trump administration still reeling from Trump himself, and obviously the government shutdown consequences still falling out. So, I think that, but cue the drum roll, Jeremy.
Oh, I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready.
Oh, come on.
I need to be better on top of it. I'm sorry.
Here, right. I got it now. What you think of the award goes to again, Pete Hegseth, because clearly you're issuing orders that are clearly illegal and getting people to follow them. Congratulating Pete Hegseth. We'll be seeing you in court at some point in the near future after this administration is done.
He's got a. I mean, we honestly we should name an award after him. It's just the amount of stuff he does.
Yeah,
we're totally 3 weeks in this award, and he's won it twice out of the 3 weeks.
At some point, it's like when I went to my kind of like, it wasn't quite Boy Scouts, but same kind of concept. And me and my brother kept winning the best uniform over and over and over because we took care of our stuff and made sure everything. Eventually, they came out and just told us like, we got to give the award to someone else because you guys just keep winning it. Eventually, we're gonna have to just give it to someone else because otherwise, Pete's just gonna get all these awards. He's gonna have a shelf just full.
Yeah, it's like me. They had to start giving out when I was in Boy Scouts. I would always cook the best meals, and eventually they had to stop giving it to me.
Right? Yeah. We need someone else to have a turn.
So
although that might be too socialist, so we might have to just keep giving it to him because we don't want to. It's we're spreading the wealth out. I don't know. He might not like that, so he might appreciate it better if we just keep giving it to him.
Right. but it's funny how that works. We don't want socialism or communism, but eventually, if you win it too many times, you're like, So, any other words of
Poor
wisdom
Pete.
before we get from
He's
Darnell?
just misunderstood.
Hey, Darnell, at least you made it this week.
Yeah, barely.
Hey, at least you made it this week, and we don't have to rag on you again.
Yeah, I barely made it this week. In the process, I got so many things up in the air right now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I just love giving myself headaches every day.
Yeah.
I mean, you're Florida, so it's pretty regular, I'm guessing. The amount of stuff that goes on down there.
And
Yeah, at
that's
least we're not.
why I try to stay in the house a lot.
Like the latest lawsuit against Trump and
Yeah,
down there in Palm Beach area, I believe it was. There's
Yeah.
a lawsuit alleging him and Musk and Gates all part of a trafficking ring down there, like alongside the Epstein stuff. Like,
Yeah.
that's one thing. That was going to be my final thought.
yeah. Okay.
Where the
See?
files?
Yep. And we still haven't seen the files.
Yeah, but I'm
I
more
love
interested in seeing
how Bondi.
They love it. They love a good nickname over there. So
is
Like I
now talking about investigating people, so the files aren't going to be coming out, and let's just see what's in the file.
That's gonna backfire on them.
Yeah,
I don't know what they're thinking. Like, oh, I'm sure people won't mind if we just open an investigation so that they can't see the files after they just passed a law that we need to release all the files. What could go wrong with that?
Yeah, I also think.
You think they think that far ahead?
No,
but like I said last week. Like I said last week, remember Judge Chutkan entered the picture and said you got to release the files about the files, the communications about how you're handling the files. So it's like, but those can't be part of the investigation.
What's the deadline? It's mid December. They only got like
and so they got to talk to because that's under FOIA. So they got another issue.
A fortnight there. They have.
Yeah. So that's like, it looks like Pam Bondi might be up on the award block for next week at this point.
Yeah, we got a serious contender for next week. I love it.
Yeah, and like I said, people, I know we named this podcast "What Were They Thinking?" podcast and a little bit of tongue in cheek, but now we're beginning to get to the point. Like, this is actually a legitimate question.
Yeah. I mean, you got to wonder, like, what goes on in their heads before they, before they make these decisions. Do they think at all? Or is it just...
Is it like a vast cavern between the
whatever
two
they feel like? Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, they also live in... Trump lives in a world where it's not reality. Like, affordability is a democratic hoax.
Yeah.
Right.
What? So are groceries. They're a hoax too. They're not real.
Right. It's like this. People are moving out of the red states into blue states now because they're beginning to realize the quality of life in blue states is actually better. Yes, you have to pay more to live here, but guess what? You don't have some of the same
more
BS.
for what you're paying.
Right. And you're getting a better quality.
Yeah.
It's like we had talked about in the past with education.
That's also the idea behind socialism.
Yeah.
As long as it's democratic, I mean, you pay a little bit more, but you have a better quality of life. You don't have to then go find healthcare. You don't have to then
go get anything close to socialism is if we start saying it's a Republican idea.
We
got to get Trump on board, and he'll just go full socialist.
Sure.
Once we explain it to him,
actually, what we could say is it's what Lincoln thought.
I mean,
we'll
just start telling him capitalism was actually a hoax by Biden.
No,
that'd be.
He'll hate capitalism.
It's like, but the thing is like Teddy Roosevelt was a Republican, and look at how much progressive ideas he pushed through. So, with that being said, This is What You Were Thinking podcast. Until next week, make sure you keep thinking. Otherwise, you might be on the show and the winner of the What Were You Thinking? What Were They Thinking podcast award of What Were You Thinking? All right. Until then, thank you for watching, and we'll see you later.